Okay, so I am here to talk to you about the planning process. So first off, I wanted to run a question by you. That being, what do you think of when you hear the word accountant?
Taxes.
Okay, what else?
Boring.
There we go, that's what I was looking for. So yeah, typically when you think of accountant, you think of tax returns, financial statements,
Yeah.
boring,
Yeah.
introvert. Not exactly the most exciting profession. So I guess the way I see it is accountants are more of the quarterback of your team. So they're the leaders, problem solvers, innovators, and organizers. So as we think about the planning process, I think it applies to everybody in every business, regardless of what stage of life you're in. Either you're getting started, you're partway through, or you're getting close to moving that business on to the next generation. Irregardless of where you're at, you're in that planning process at some stage. To me, this accounts for 4 different cycles. So business, wealth, pension, and then estate. So basically what I want to do is just kind of quickly run through some of these areas and kind of explain to you how I kind of want to see this as part of our practice going forward and how it can kind of help you as a small business owner and our clients at the firm. So basically, where you start out is in the business section. So typically, you rely on the accountant to come in once a year, prepare that tax return and the financial statements. That is about the extent of it. But at the end of the day, accountants should be doing a lot more for you. As far as I'm concerned, they should be quarterbacking your business, pushing it forward to the next stage. So beyond the tax returns, they should be helping you in a number of different spots. Cash flow, budget, financing, tax compliance, and then connecting you with other professionals. So as far as cash flow goes, I think a lot of businesses struggle with this. They probably don't have the details on the back end to help them make these decisions. So again, using other professionals such as a bookkeeper to kind of keep on top of that information, to have that at your fingertips to make those important decisions as you need to do them is a very important piece. And I think an accountant should be there to help you make those connections, get that information, and get those decisions made in a timely manner. Kind of tied in with that is budgeting. A lot of small businesses just kind of wing things. They see where things kind of fall out at the end of the year when they come in to sit down and they review the financial statements. I don't know how many times people have come in and they're surprised that they've lost money. And it's like, well, what are you doing in business? You spent the last year working your tail off to try and get ahead, and you come in here and yeah, you've lost money. So these are the things that you need to kind of take into consideration as you go along to see your business grow. Financing, accountants can kind of help you as far as securing loans, what to understand as far as the guarantee process goes, that type of thing. And then of course tax compliance, but it goes beyond more than just filing a return. Having a system in place that'll enable you to get the information to your bookkeeper in a timely manner, that'll save you money there. If you do get audited down the road, then you're in a place that you can say, okay, here's all the documents, here's my proof, and you're not going to get nailed with interest and penalties. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, just that use of other professionals. To me, kind of looking back at the podcast series that I've done with a number of people from the Lighthouse Group, it's been important to kind of look at some of the areas in small business where it's good to have those other professionals come in to help you avoid making some of those mistakes that a lot of small business owners make. Next is moving into wealth. So I think a lot of small business owners, they get into business, they've got an idea of what they want to do or sell or whatever the case might be, but they don't know how to kind of transition that into long-term wealth. They're just there working day in, day out to kind of make the business work, but they're not getting to the point where they're getting the business to kind of work for them. So one of the things that an accountant should do early on is kind of help you manage the business structure. So maybe you're starting out as a sole proprietor, but you want to, talk about incorporation down the road. That's probably the best mechanism for preserving your wealth and being able to build that out. Next would be kind of reinvesting in your business. So at some point in time, there's hopefully gonna come a point where you can maybe get some debt in there as opposed to consistently financing everything yourself. Kind of looking at ways to, tie the two together. What is the most adequate for your business going forward? And then as you grow that business, you've got some excess cash. What are you gonna do with that? Are you gonna invest that in a stock portfolio? Are you gonna put that into passive real estate? How should you hold those things? Should it be within the corp, or you should pull these funds out and you should be investing these things personally? So kind of looking at the whole scheme of your small business and then yourself personally to kind of come up with a tax efficient plan that makes sense for your personal goals to ensure that you're building that wealth in the way that you want it to. Next would be pension. So this can be, a bit of a subjective area. It can be difficult to say, I want to retire at this point in time. I think for a lot of people nowadays, and especially small business owners, you tie a lot of wealth and, value in that business. And it's hard to kind of take yourself out of that business and just say, okay, I'm retiring, I'm letting this go. That business basically becomes kind of a child to you as you grow with the business over a number of years. So it's important to kind of look at how you can work together with that business owner to ensure that you're planning for the future, and when it is eventually time to kind of step back, that the business owner can kind of do it on their terms. So a number of things to look at is, your family situation, as far as marital status, how many kids and grandkids that you have, are there any special needs within the family that need to be taken care of, and then kind of going forward, looking at some of the other, financial areas that would be appropriate to your family. So is there a pension from maybe the public sector? What do your OAS and CPP amounts look like? Those type of things are very important to kind of consider in that pension stage. And, you don't need to get to 60, 65 to start planning these things out. It's a good idea to kind of take this into consideration early on and put a plan in place for you that makes sense for you. And it allows you to kind of say, this is the lifestyle I want to live when I retire, and this is how I'm going to get to this point. So then lastly, fingers to work here, is just estate planning. So this specifically looks at that small business owner, and it says, when you get to the end of, working in that business, what do you plan to do with it? Are you transitioning it off to a child? Is there maybe a key employee within the operation that can take over? Or are you trying to sell to a third party? These things should be looked at well in advance, because you never know when that offer might come in from a third party. And if you're not, correctly positioned to be able to sell the business at that time, you might not be able to take care of, some significant tax deferrals and some exemptions that are in place. Beyond that, it just kind of looks at, maybe the timing of that transition. So a lot of times when you're moving that business to the next generation, it might be difficult for the child or that employee to buy in. So having a plan to get them into the business over the correct period of time, mitigating your risk to make sure that, as you move out of the business, you're still being compensated for the value that you created in it. Yeah. So all these things need to be kind of considered when you're putting that plan into place. And then lastly, just kind of looking at, your will, having that in place, irregardless of your age. There's so many negative things that can happen at any point in time that will severely impact your family and the way it's able to carry forward if something negative is to happen to you. So having that will in place right off the start is a very important piece to have for small business owners for sure. So I guess in closing, just kind of keep that in mind, irregardless of where you're at in business, you're at some stage of this planning process. And just because you're maybe working on the business side of it right now, doesn't mean you should neglect the other areas. And as you go along in life, it doesn't mean that you can't revert back to kind of clean up some of these other areas as well. Business is kind of a holistic, continuing growth project that you need to kind of account for on a regular basis to ensure that, you, your family, your kids are all protected going forward. So, I think that's it.